Hey guys, welcome back to another Minecraft tutorial. Before I start, I want to mention something. So I am still playing FTB Infinity, however I am not recording them. I am not recording the Let's Play anymore, partly because there wasn't really any interest, it seemed. No one was commenting on them, I wasn't getting very many likes, so I just assumed no one's really interested. But also because of some advice that Xisumavoid gave to someone watching his live stream, which was, if you're doing YouTube, you shouldn't do it to try to get views and likes and comments and whatever. You should be doing it because you enjoy it. And then if other people want to watch it, then that's a bonus. But if you stop liking it, so for example, if you're trying so hard to get views and likes and comments that you don't even like doing it anymore, then you're basically wasting your time. So I kind of agree with that a lot. So what I realized was that doing the Infinity Let's Play was starting to become a hassle. Not because of the game itself. I love the game, that's why I'm still playing it. But trying to make sure I always had a 30-minute video, plus, the several hours of editing and rendering that went into it, and uploading, and making sure I got everything done on time once a week, keeping myself to a schedule for a video game. It was just getting to be too much of a hassle, especially with the rest of my life. And since nobody was interested in it anyway, I didn't feel like I was letting anyone down by stopping. So there won't be any more FTB Infinity Let's Plays on this channel, unless there's a huge demand for it. So if you are interested, please let me know in the comments below. At the very least, I did record one last episode before I stopped, and I can always finish editing that and upload it if you guys want, just for kind of a farewell. Or I can continue the series if there's enough interest. But for now, I'm just going to be playing on my own without recording. I'll probably put a video up when I finally finish my base in that world, because I did mention the base that I was going to be making, and I'm making progress on that. So for those of you who are interested, when I finish that base, I'll probably make a little walkthrough, just kind of a tour of it, and I'll put that up, but no more Let's Plays, sorry. But I didn't want to leave you guys hanging with the Minecraft stuff, especially those of you who subscribe to me for Minecraft. So, speaking of Xisumavoid, this is a tutorial that's inspired by one of Xisumavoid's, I guess, designs. It's probably not his original design, because it is kind of simple, but I never thought of it before, and I first saw it in his video, which I will post down below. But basically, his design was this 3x2 area here, which is sort of like a memory circuit. So basically what this will do on its own is it'll keep track of the highest input that it's ever had. So if we look, right there, if you look in the top right hand corner, it says the power is 6, right? If I disconnect this from my addition here, and I bump this up to 15, now the power is 15, which you would expect. But if I take this out, the power stays at 15 even though it should be 0. So it remembers the highest. And it is the highest, so if I quickly come in here and reset this, if I put a 3, say a 3, if I put a 6 in here, it stays at 6. If I bring it down to 3, it's still a 3. Or sorry, it's still a 6. So yeah, it remembers the highest input it's ever had, and then you can reset it back to 0. But what if you don't want to reset it back to 0? What if you want to just update it to a different value? As I showed, you can update it to a higher value, but you can't update it to a lower value. So if I wanted to go from 6 to 3, I couldn't. And so that is what this addition is. So basically, if I reconnect this part, this together, this ends up making basically a latched analog memory. So let me break that down. Analog is because it is a value from 0 to 15 rather than a binary 0 or 1, on or off. So it's analog because you can get any value in between. And it's latched because it remembers the last one that it saved, even after the input changes. So if the last one saved was a 6 and the input becomes a 15 or a 0, doesn't matter, the output will still be 6. But unlike the original design, you can actually save a lower value. So if I drop the value to a 3 from a 6, I can resave it and a 3 will come out. And unlike the original design, if I raise the value, it won't save the new value until I press the save button again. So, right now the save button is right here. It can be anything. In an actual computer, it's usually a clock, so you can hook this up to a redstone clock if you want. I'm just using a button for demonstration purposes. So yeah, so let me show you how this works. So right now we have a value of 0. If I put in an iron sword, which doesn't stack, and so it takes up a full inventory slot, and there are 5 slots, so that's 1/5, which is 1/5 of 15 is 3. So that would be a value of 3, but it still says 0. Now, if I press this button, it saves to a value of 3 on both sides. Now, if I take this out and it goes back to 0, it actually still stays at an output of 3. But unlike the other circuit, if I put 2 in to get 6, it stays at 3 anyway. If I reset it, or rather if I save it again, then it becomes a value of 6, right? And then if I take all of these out, it stays at 6, and then if I save it, it goes back down to 0. So yeah, so this is a nice little memory circuit, a latched analog memory. I can show you how to build it, but first I want to mention, right now I'm using a button, which is a fairly long input, so when you press it, you'll notice this part, well, I guess you can't tell with the value of 0, but let's bring it up to 15 so it's nice and bright. If you press this, the output part turns off for a second. So this part right here will immediately change to the new value when you hit save. The output will actually turn off for as long as your pulse is on. And it'll wait till this turns off before this comes back on. So, or I should say before this comes back on to your new value. So you're probably going to want as fast an input as possible. However, this uses a torch, and torches have a threshold of 1.5 ticks, which means a 1-tick pulse will not work on this. If you use a 1-tick pulse, you're never going to be able to save anything ever. It's just going to stay on the original value. So 2 ticks or more works. I have tested it with a 2-tick pulse, and that works fine. So yeah, just remember that before you build your clocks and everything. 1-tick pulses will not work. But how do we build this? So basically, we have multiple components here. This part is the input. I'm using a hopper. It can be any input, so we'll just call this a hopper here input. And then you want a comparator here. And this comparator does need to be here because this actually is part of the latch. So you put this comparator here. You put a piece of redstone. Oh, not there. You put a piece of redstone there. And then you put comparator there, redstone goes here, and then you need 2 solid blocks of any type right here. They have to be opaque blocks, but otherwise it's fine. So basically this part is Xisuma's latch, and all it does is the signal that comes in here, the comparator will maintain that signal strength. But that will actually power this block next to it to the same signal strength, and this will pick it up and power this block to that signal strength, which will power this line again. And so it just kind of loops and keeps everything at the same signal strength. So yeah, and you can't lower the value, because if you try to lower this value, this one is higher, so it'll end up being the highest value. So yeah. So that's Xisuma's part. So now, all I did was I added an ABBA circuit to it. Now, what is an ABBA circuit? It's ABBA, which means if the first input is labeled A, the second is labeled B, then when you turn it on, A will turn on and then B, and when you turn it off, B will turn off first and then A. And that is the key to this, because what happens is, if you put this in subtract mode, which it needs to be on, by the way, I forgot, and so does this. Oops. This actually should be... Sorry, I got that a little backwards. These blocks and these redstones need to be diagonal from each other. Sorry. But yeah. So these two need to be in subtract mode. And so what happens is, if this is a full power, right, then this is whatever the input is minus 15, which is going to be 0 or less, and you can't have less than 0 strength, so it just drops it down to 0, and this basically gates your input, so that no matter how high or low this input is, as long as this is on, this will not change, because the input won't pass through. Then you also need a full strength input coming in here, so we put a repeater, because what that'll do, sorry, is if you have a full strength here, it'll cut this off, and this is part of the circuit that's maintaining the signal strength, so the whole circuit shuts off and the signal strength turns off. So yeah, and you'll notice when I was showing you this, I put a block here and a redstone block here, or a redstone torch here, because that's important. We need to make sure that when this happens, the signal strength is allowed to pass through, then this needs to be reset to clear the old value, and then the signal strength needs to stay on slightly longer so that the new value can pass through after this is 0. Because remember, this part by itself will take the highest value, so once it's reset to 0, if the signal strength from the input is allowed to pass through, that will become the new output. So yeah, and then this turns off. So that's really all it is. So let's build that ABBA circuit. As you can see, it's just... Oh, sorry. Because this is a torch here, it does need to be a little farther away, because unfortunately you can't put a torch as an input directly into your circuit. It does need to come through redstone. So yeah, you can put this one away, or I guess you could put this whole circuit underneath if you wanted to, and put that torch there. You'd then have to put a torch here though, and then a double inversion, and then you'd have some delay, and yeah, it's more trouble than it's worth, so you just move it over here. And then you put a, what did I do? Oh yes, you put signals here, or sorry, redstone here, and then you want to put a repeater here, yes, and then you build this up, and you put a block, oops, not there, a block here, a repeater here, and that is your circuit done. Well, sorry, you do need a repeater here as well, and that is your circuit done. So what happens is, when this turns on, the first thing that it hits is this block, which powers this immediately, so this turns on first. Then it goes through here, powers this block, and this turns on second. And then it comes around here, and these are already on, so that doesn't matter. When you turn it off, this turns off first, but this is still on because this repeater is powering it. So this stays on, then this turns off, and by the time this turns off, this repeater is off, so this will turn off first, and then it'll come through this repeater and turn this off. So that becomes the ABBA circuit attached to the signal strength maintainer, or rather the maximum signal strength maintainer, and just have the B of the ABBA connected to the reset of the maintainer, and the A inverted and connected to the input, so that it actually will cut it off and gate it so that it only lets it through while you're saving. So yeah, so let's say the input again is just a button. If we have this, it's got 0. If we, well, I don't have anything non-stackable, but let's just throw something in there so it'll be 1. Then we hit this, and it becomes 1. So yeah. I didn't mean to save that screenshot, but sure, we'll have a screenshot. So yeah, that is the save button, I guess, the analog latched memory. You can use this in your circuits for whatever kind of logic you might need, or if you're building a redstone computer, which has been done many times before. You can add this to yours if you want some kind of analog processing. But yeah. Oh, speaking of analog processing, if you didn't know, there's a small little thing that I like to do, which I call an ADC, or an analog to digital converter, which is basically a comparator into a repeater. And so what this will do is it'll take any analog input and convert it to binary. So if you have any input, it'll be a 1. If you have no input, it'll be a 0. So this is obviously very simple, but it's actually quite useful, for example, when you have comparator output from an inventory. Because what this will allow you to do is find out if there's anything in the inventory, rather than having a certain signal strength. So if there's one thing or if there's 20 things, it doesn't matter. You'll still get the same output, which is really good for consistency. So yeah. But anyway, that's tangential. We have our circuit right here. So until next time, keep redstoning.